Hello and welcome. You're watching Nothing But the Truth. How does the Congress Party respond to conciliatory attempts being made by the government in Parliament? And what are the prospects for the goods and services tax? Could it see the light of day in the winter session? Those are two of the key subjects that I shall raise today with the Deputy Leader of the Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, former Minister of Commerce and Industry, Anand Sharma. Mr. Sharma, let's start with the Prime Minister's two speeches in Parliament during the winter session. He said, India first was his government's religion. He said the Constitution was the only holy book. Speaking about his government's policies, he said we have to empower people from all sections, be it any community, religion or language. Would you accept this is a determined and serious attempt to reach out to the opposition? And secondly, to bridge the deep political divide that's emerged in the last 18 months?
No, in fact, it is an attempt to repair the damage. Because India's image has been dented globally because of what has been happening. The rising intolerance, the manner in which creative Indians who have been recognized for their work and their contribution, from historians to writers to scientists to filmmakers, have been humiliated, threatened for freely expressing their views. So and the space of freedom of expression and dissent has been shrinking. Now, the Prime Minister used the Parliament forum to convey that no, he or his government does not believe in that. And they go by the Constitution, which is the holy book. Now, Karan, this is not the first time Prime Minister has said, though we welcome what he has said, but he said it even last year.
But
when
do you
questions
not see
were
this
raised.
As reaching out to the opposition?
No,
do
I don't think so.
As an attempt to bridge the divide?
This is not to reach out to the opposition at all, because the concerns that we raised during the discussion in both the houses, particularly in my house, have gone unaddressed. Because we did ask the Prime Minister last year on 4th of December, he gave an assurance to the House that he will not allow any repeat after that Niranjana Jyoti, the minister, said something which was highly offensive and objectionable. Thereafter, there have been multiple defaults by his ministers, but he has failed to take action. The real way to reach out.
It's not just the Prime Minister in his two speeches. There's also Rajnath Singh. Remember what he said about historians, about scientists, about writers who had returned their awards. Arun Jaitley said they were rabid anti-BJP elements.
Yes.
Arun Jaitley said their protest was manufactured. In sharp contrast, Rajnath Singh said, and I'm quoting him, whenever the country has been in trouble, whenever adverse circumstances have emerged, it's artists, teachers and scientists who have guided the country. And then, even more importantly, he added, please come guide us. If we are making a mistake somewhere, we are ready to correct it. I'm ready to sit with you, and our government is ready to do whatever is necessary to bring an atmosphere of tolerance.
That's a correct statement.
But that's a remarkable
But at the same time,
reversal.
that should have been the only statement made by the government.
But just a moment.
You cannot have senior ministers speaking in different voices.
But after this,
one humiliating, insulting,
after this,
one accepting.
After this, no minister has contradicted or spoken in different voices. This is Rajnath Singh on the 2nd of December, and I put it to you, it's a remarkable reversal of the government's position. It's a complete U-turn of Arun Jaitley claiming rabid anti-BJP elements. And secondly, it's a sincere attempt to atone and make amends.
Well, we hope that this is a sincere attempt and it's not only damage control. That's very important.
Why do you say
if it's only damage control, that's not going to help. These are the mindsets which are involved.
Why are you skeptical? Why do you say we hope? Why are you not sure this is making amends? This is a reversal?
No, because Prime Minister himself had given an assurance on the floor of the House, which has been violated.
That was December.
That is 4th of December last
Now
year.
a year has passed. A year later, he may have learnt his lesson. Maybe now he's serious.
You see, Prime Minister has not reached out to the opposition in a meaningful manner for a constructive engagement. It has taken him 18 months to even acknowledge that the government needs to talk to the opposition.
Where's he fallen short?
Well, for 18 months, he has only been carrying the same mindset of confrontation with the opposition, which he had when he was campaigning for the elections.
But as of this parliamentary session, do you not see a change? Forget the past 18 months.
It's not a question
Is
of
there
past.
not a change now?
Where is the change? Just speaking in the House, not addressing the issues that we raised. You know, it was like a sermon. It was not addressing the real issues. But still we say that, okay, We welcome that. Nobody interrupted the Prime Minister. We listened to him with respect. At the same time, the country expects more from him. The country expects that he...
Can I interrupt?
He lives his assurance.
Can I interrupt and put this to you? You're arguing that this is just damage control because the country's image has suffered. You're questioning whether this is a sincere reversal of the government's attitude.
I'm not questioning.
Whether this is
I'm not
an attempt
questioning.
to reach out.
No. So far, I'm not convinced that there is sincerity. Sincerity would be established if the Prime Minister takes some tangible action against some identified individuals for having repeatedly violated their oath of office.
Well, presumably the next time they do so, he will. He's not going to do it about people who've done it in the past.
These people happen to be ministers, Karan. They have taken an oath under the Constitution.
Can I give you one example of tangible action? After the Ambedkar debate, when the Parliament passed a resolution, the government reached out to you to ask you to make amends. And the Hindu says, you personally suggested 3 changes which the government accepted.
No, let me,
Isn't
Karan,
that
let me again...
Isn't that tangible?
No, let me again interject. That is not very sincere engagement with the opposition. Government and opposition dialogue
Why
cannot
is it not sincere?
Allow me to complete. Government-opposition dialogue cannot be restricted to passage of one bill or otherwise. There are so many issues before the country. When we are talking of inflation, when we are talking of India's engagement with the neighborhood, Prime Minister's own visits abroad, his participation in G20, the ASEAN, travels to America, travels to other countries, India hosting the Africa. Has he ever discussed anything with us?
In other words, you want...
Only the GST, after 18 months, the only thing which he has to
I'm trying to understand your position. You're saying the Prime Minister will have to prove his sincerity by sitting down formally with you and the rest of the opposition to discuss these issues that you mentioned. Inflation,
so many issues.
His journeys abroad, the speeches he's made.
The agrarian crisis in the country.
In other words,
why should he not benefit from the experience and wisdom of the leaders in opposition?
So you want him to actually call a formal meeting with Congress leaders to discuss these issues?
No, I'm not saying formal meeting. It has to be a continuous dialogue, not limited, as I'm saying, to the passage of one bill. Prime Minister has never discussed anything.
But you seem to believe this is entirely motivated by the fact that GST hangs in the
That's all what he has talked.
How do you know he's not actually sincerely reaching out and not trying to bridge
I'm not
the divide?
questioning that.
But you are. You say you don't believe in his sincerity.
No, I did not say. I said the sincerity would be established if he sustains a continuous dialogue and consultation with the opposition.
Can you accept one thing?
On all issues, not restricting it to GST.
Can you accept one thing? It's only 4 or 5 days since the PM made those speeches. It's only 5 days since Rajnath Singh made this complete reversal of Arun Jaitley's position. Now, if you want him to sustain it, you have to give him a little time. You therefore have to say, at best, he needs to prove a bit more that he's sincere. The jury is out. But why question his sincerity? Say the jury is out,
no, first
but don't
of all,
question his sincerity.
He said the same things when he took oath of office as the Prime Minister, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, but did he do that? He presided over a government where the ministers were giving calls for communal polarization, making inflammatory statements, insulting and threatening those who were protesting. Even the right to protest of the citizens and the constitutional guarantees have been under assault.
You know, as I listen to you,
and he has been...
As I listen to you, I get the feeling that actually, from your point of view, you don't believe and trust the PM. That's the problem.
Karan,
when you question his sincerity,
if you
the problem is you don't trust him.
Let's go by the track record. He said all these good things. After that, he goes all over the world insulting, humiliating, berating the Indian opposition and all his predecessors, all the previous governments, saying that nothing had happened and only when he came. That's a mindset which he has. So we have to see the changes that he has realized that mindset is unhealthy. And in a democracy, he must also give respect to the viewpoint of his ideological opponents.
All right. I understand your position, and I'm repeating it for you to confirm it. You think the Prime Minister has made a start, but he needs to prove his sincerity by sustaining it.
Cannot
and
be.
He needs to sit down with you and in a more formal, prolonged way discuss all the issues on which you have differences. And he needs to also change the way he criticizes the opposition when he goes abroad. All of that has to happen before you accept this is a real attempt at conciliation.
You see, what is important, we are, as a Congress party, of this considered view that there is need of a constructive engagement between the government and the opposition.
And that hasn't started as yet? You don't believe even this reaching out is the beginning of that?
No, it is restricted to the passage of one bill, unfortunately.
Let me put this discussion aside. Let me raise the way people perceive Congress has responded to what they think is the Prime Minister sincerely reaching out. At a time when the speeches of the Home Minister were not just atoning but almost apologizing. He was actually saying, and I'm quoting him again, if we are making a mistake somewhere, we are ready to correct it. At that point of time, your Vice President responded by deliberately being combative, aggressive, and quarrelsome. And the question people ask is this: is it wise for the opposition to respond as if it wants to pick a fight when the government is trying to bridge the divide and reach out?
The question is that you have to look at it from not only Rahul Gandhi's but the Congress perspective or the entire opposition. Because what he said was endorsed by the combined opposition in that house, where the strength is very weak. Irrespective of that, because he pointed out what had happened. Now that must be brought on record. You cannot brush it under the carpet.
Except that he was going back into the history of the last 18 months, and what the PM was trying to do was to draw a line and say, let's forget the past, let's move on hand in hand together. You weren't responding in the spirit in which the PM was reaching out.
It's not like that. PM was heard with respect in both the houses.
But not believed. That's the point I'm making. You don't believe him.
Listen, because the Prime Minister also realizes that what has been happening in the country has not been liked by people even within the country. He has experienced Bihar, and now he has experienced Gujarat, rural Gujarat. He has experienced Madhya Pradesh.
Isn't it even more difficult for the Prime Minister when he's actually been battered in the polls in Bihar? And when he believes that public sentiment or press sentiment is not with him, at that point for him to reach out for his Home Minister to accept mistakes is bait is even more difficult. And because it's more difficult, it must be sincere.
Nobody can ignore the enriching contribution of eminent Indians. Now that's exactly what they were trying to do. They have realized that has not gone down well with the people. Another thing which I may say, this Prime Minister
can you never
and
draw
his government,
a line over the last 18 months and say
I'm saying
that's
something
over,
else.
let's start afresh?
Karan, listen to me. This Prime Minister, I told him in the House to his face, he has been distorting history, belittling the achievements of the great national leaders, even like Jawaharlal Nehru. His government, for the 60th anniversary of Bandung Conference,
he spoke forget about Jawaharlal Nehru.
Please allow
That's what I'm saying.
He has been forced to.
But you say he's forced to.
No,
maybe
let me say.
Have come on
allow
him.
me.
But the point is he's done it.
It's important for me.
Why is not so important as that he did do it?
I think, listen to me what I have to say. That's very important. Nehru was the architect of the Bandung Conference with Nasser and Tito. 60th anniversary of Bandung Conference. All other countries' statements, which are participating nations, actually eulogize, applaud Nehru's contribution. India's statement did not even mention the word Nehru.
And it's
not only that.
Congress has repeatedly made. But what I'm saying is
allow me.
This is part of the 18 months that is over.
No.
Can you not draw a line and say, let's start afresh?
I'm not making it a sticking point, but please, we have
Sounds
a right
like
to
it.
be...
It
No,
sounds
we
like
have a
it.
right to tell you that he's not obliging now by belatedly acknowledging that Jawaharlal Nehru existed and he made a notable contribution.
Can I put this to you?
He has been in denial so
Can I put this to
far.
you? Every time the PM or Rajnath try and reach out, every time the PM and Rajnath try and bridge the divide, Congress responds by scratching its sores and reopening old
it's not
wounds.
a question of reopening.
Let the wounds beep of the
It's
past.
not a question of reopening.
The PM wants to start afresh.
Listen, Nehru.
Meet him halfway.
Listen. Nehru does not need a certificate from Narendra Modi. Number one. But
And
at the
Modi
same time,
acknowledged that in Parliament.
But at the same time, now,
This session he did.
You know what happened in the India-Africa summit.
But
please allow me also to complete. India hosted the summit. Prime Minister was the chair, and the co-chair was the African Union President Robert Mugabe. Prime Minister's speech did not refer to Nehru and to what India did.
How long
Listen,
will you
allow
keep
me.
allowing
Please
old
allow.
wounds
It's not me.
create fresh
Listen,
pain?
allow me to complete that sentence. You come in midway. 12 African heads of states, including the co-chair, reminded him. He is now acknowledging or referring only because he realizes in his global engagements he cannot actually whitewash history.
But you know what you're doing? The PM is trying to reach out.
You are getting us wrong.
The PM is trying to start afresh. You keep allowing old wounds and old
We are
hurts
not questioning.
to pain you and to embitter the atmosphere.
You're
He's
not
saying, forget the past, let's start again. You're saying, no, the past has to continue.
He has only said he is a man who uses the words to in some effect. But he does not live by his words. That is the experience of the country.
You think these words are cosmetic? You think the sentiment is insincere?
Well, he has to prove it. Not just one meeting for the passage of one bill.
I keep asking you, what is it he has to do to prove it?
Let's see that how he engages on all major national issues with the opposition.
You're going to test him over the next 6 months?
He should be tested.
Can I put this to you? I'm approaching this issue a little differently now. For India, the deep divide that's opened up between the government and the opposition is unhealthy. It's dangerous for our democracy. And many people say, when the
Didn't the Prime Minister and his government realize it?
Can I finish? Many people say, when the Prime Minister in response tries to reach out and bridge that divide, there is an onus on Congress to respond in a similar fashion. And if Congress doesn't, then people will fear or suspect that you're putting your partisan political interests ahead of India's democracy and India's interests.
Karan, that's a very unfair comment. We have put India's interest always before the party's interest. We are the ones who ensured the passage of maximum bills in the last 1 year. Let's not forget that. Go by the history of the Indian Parliament over the last 10 years. We were blocked. Everything which was in national interest was opposed by the BJP and by Narendra Modi. Today he is talking to us about the GST. Who led the charge against the GST? Narendra Modi as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Now, is it wrong on our part in a democracy to tell them also that, listen, if today you have the insurance bill was through, land boundary agreement, constitutional amendment was through, so many other important bills on mines, coal were through, it was because of a mature opposition.
Mr. Sharma, I accept the point you're making.
We are not being partisan.
I accept the point you're making, but the thought that comes to my mind is this. There is a whole baggage of the past when the BJP, you believe, sabotaged you. Every time they reach out, you will question their reaching out on the grounds they did this in the past.
Then we should not have allowed the passage of the insurance bill at all, because they blocked it for 7 years.
The point is,
but
how
we allowed it to pass.
How long will the
No, you are getting it wrong. No, it's no tutu meme.
Therefore we are doing
it's no tutu meme. Opposition has a duty to perform. Opposition cannot be a rubber stamp for the government's agenda.
Doesn't the opposition also have a duty to the nation to ensure
of course
that
we are doing that.
Reforms happen?
Who decides that?
We
take that decision. What is in national interest?
What about the duty to the nation to ensure that the bitterness disappears?
Who
that
tells
you have
us this?
Normal, sensible politics rather than the present
I think
bitter feud.
you are asking this question to the wrong person. You should be asking Narendra Modi and his senior ministers, including Arun Jaitley and others, that what have you achieved through your arrogance and confrontationist mindset vis-a-vis the opposition? The responsibility lies with the government of the day.
Can I put this to you?
It's not for the opposition to...
2 or 3 times in this interview you said that this conciliation, which you believe is cosmetic, which is not fully sincere...
No, I'm not using the word cosmetic.
That it is designed to help a particular bill go through. How convinced are you, how sure are you that this is only to ensure the passage of GST?
How can
that
I
it's not
speak for
actually
him?
Genuine reconciliation?
We go by our experience. As I said, we will see in the coming weeks and months as to whether he engages and his government with the opposition on major national issues. That's what I'm saying.
So I'm
now not averse to that engagement.
I'm now going to try and switch focus to try and understand
are we saying that we will not engage?
What are the tests in quotations the PM has to fulfill before you accept this is sincere conciliation and not
I'm not going to give him an agenda
by GST or just by other attempts.
I am not going to give him an agenda.
No,
it is for him to reach out on other issues. You have in our neighborhood Nepal burning. We do not know what's happening vis-a-vis Pakistan. Has he discussed ever with the
the first thing you want is the Prime Minister to reach out on issues like inflation, Nepal burning, Pakistan,
agrarian crisis.
Okay. How should this reaching out happen? Explain that to me.
There is a structured format like in the past.
Which is what?
Prime Minister to reach out, to invite either individual opposition leaders for a meeting, and if there is a larger issue, then to invite the leaders of all major parties.
All right. You've made that clear. On these critical issues, you'd like the Prime Minister to invite Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Manmohan Singh, other leaders,
it is for him
and
to
sit
decide.
down with them. Okay. That's one step the PM needs to make. The second thing you said is that you'll judge over the next weeks and months. You actually use the word months. How long does the Prime Minister have to keep proving he's sincere before you believe he's sincere?
Listen, I think we are just laboring over this point unnecessarily. One meeting in 18 months for the passage of one bill does not bring about a paradigm shift. That's why we have to test.
What makes you so sure this is only for one bill and not actually?
How can I say what is in the mind of the Prime Minister? How do I know? I cannot get into his mind. Can you?
Okay. Let's come briefly to GST. It seems from the Arvind Subramaniam report that the government will probably accept your demand that the 1% interstate entry tax should be dropped. That's one of your preconditions met. It seems from what the press is reporting that Congress and the government could agree on some sort of dispute redressal mechanism, which is not the GST Council itself, but an independent authority. But there the critical question is this. But the critical question is there. Should that independent authority be a judicial body? What's your answer? Some of your colleagues in Congress seem to suggest it must be a judicial body. What should it be?
Well, I think we cannot take a final position before the government has formally responded to our three demands.
But you're open to the independent redressal mechanism being something other than a judicial body?
We can discuss the details, but it has to be an independent dispute redressal authority.
Independent dispute redressal authority, but it is possible that you'll accept one that is not a judicial body.
You see, in a democracy, you discuss with an open mind, but at the same time, this government invited this situation by dispensing with it. Okay. It was there in the original.
The critical condition that perhaps could be a stumbling block between you and the government over GST is your insistence that in fact the 18% GST cap has to be written into the Constitution. Kamal Nath yesterday repeatedly said to me it was a sticking point and it was non-negotiable. You know better than me that practically every economist in the country and most political parties believe that if there is need for a cap, it should perhaps be in the GST Bill, which is a parliamentary legislation, but not in the Constitution, where it would become almost impossible to change. Answer that for me. Should it be in the Constitution, or are you amenable to
Listen, we
view?
never use the word non-negotiable. At the same time, we felt that there is need for a cap, and there is need for a ring fencing it, an absolute guarantee that it will not be tinkered with. Now, the government has said, after Mrs. Gandhi and Dr. Manmohan Singh met with the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister and Parliamentary Affairs Minister, that they will respond to us. We expect the government to come back to us in the next few days, and as we said, following that, we will deliberate as to what the government proposes, and then we will sit with the government. So, the doors are not shut after that meeting. We made it very clear.
I'm very happy to hear that phrase, the doors are not shut.
But it is.
But on this critical issue of putting the cap into the Constitution,
I have larger issues.
Is there room for a rethink?
No, I have larger issues.
Well, just answer this before we come to other issues.
No, it's not a question of rethink. We have not seen what the government says to us.
So it's possible if the government proposes a cap in the GST bill, you'll say that's acceptable.
Listen, I'm not in a position to say anything unless and until we hear from the government.
This is
then
very
my
important
party will take a collective
your
view.
answer today is dramatically different to Kamal Nath's yesterday. Kamal Nath said it's a sticking point.
It is a sticking point.
But Kamal Nath also said it's non-negotiable. You're not saying that. You actually said we haven't said non-negotiable.
From what I gather, the Congress president did not use the word non-negotiable, but at the same time made it very clear that we would like to have it. Now let's see that what is the final agreement. Okay. I can't make a statement before the government's proposition has been received by the Congress and the Congress leadership has deliberated.
That I understand.
I'm not the person who will decide this.
That I understand. Let me therefore end this interview by asking you.
No, but let me say something.
Let me end the interview by asking you a critical question. As a perceptive politician who understands not just his party's position, but also the room for negotiation and how these things happen, are you an optimist that an agreement can be found between Congress and the BJP on these three conditions so that GST can become a reality?
No, not only on this.
This specifically?
No, you have to give the country a GST which effectively creates a common market and brings down the transaction costs. We also have other issues with the
but
government
I
to
stick
discuss.
to GST because we're running out of time. We've got 30 seconds
Yes.
left. Are you an optimist?
You are missing out on larger
Are you
issues.
an optimist on GST? Can it happen in
It
this
will
session?
eventually happen.
No, eventually is another matter. Will it happen in the winter session?
No, I can't say that.
You can't say that.
You don't rush through such important constitutional amendments. We would like to see the amendment along with the GST bill. Where is the GST bill? It's still a work in progress. We are thinking as if it is very much there with the government and it has been tabled in Parliament.
All right, Anand
that has
Sharma.
not even been drafted.
You've given me the answer. There's no guarantee GST will happen in the winter session. That's right.
Well, why should we rush through? Let's see.
All right.
If there is a consensus reached, good. We
Anand
all
Sharma.
want it. We want the GST. Let me make it clear.
A pleasure talking
And we
to
will
you.
support the GST.
A pleasure talking to you.
Right.
Gangster and terrorist Don Dawood Ibrahim claims he has received a threat message from Dawood's aide Chota Shakil on Thursday. This after he had shown interest in buying.
नमस्कार, बहुत स्वागत है आपका। आप देख रहे हैं किस्मत कनेक्शन और मैं हूं आपके साथ शैलेंद्र पांडे। बात इसी चरित्र की होगी, इसी चरित्र के चक्कर की होगी कि आखिर कौन से ग्रह बनाते हैं आपको चरित्र